All right, guys. So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing Elements of Story unit. So what we're going to be doing to start, we're going to be reading a couple of short stories, and I'm going to be providing you with a link to a collection of a bunch of short stories, and you can choose ones to read from there. Or if you have short stories at home, if it's like a picture book or some other collection of short stories, you can read them from there. And what we're going to be doing each day is we're going to be looking at the stories that we read and looking at what are the different elements in them. So we're going to start with reading these stories, and then a couple weeks down the line, we're going to be using our understanding of these elements of stories to be writing our own stories, just so that you have a picture of where we're going. So a couple weeks of reading, and then we'll get into writing our own stories. So for today, I just wanted to show us how we analyze these stories that we're going to be reading. So when you read your story, and that'll be starting tomorrow. Today I'm just showing you how it works. Tomorrow you'll be reading your own story. You're going to fill in one of these forms, an Elements of Story worksheet. And so what you'll do, you'll read your story, make sure you put the story title up here, and then you're going to be looking at different parts of the story. So who are the characters? What is the setting? What's the problem or conflict in the story? What's the solution? And then what is the plot? What are the things that happen in the story? Okay, so when we look at characters, we want to describe things like what's their appearance or their personality traits or their fears or their desires. And also there's different types of characters. So first off, who's the protagonist? So that's the main character, the character who we follow through the story. In opposition to this is who is the antagonist. So who is the villain or the bad guy? Not all stories have an antagonist, but most do. And then here we write down who are the other characters. And so for each of these characters, you want to give a description of what their appearance is, what their personality traits are, do they have fears, do they have desires. Okay, next part is the setting. So what does the setting look like? Can you describe it using sensory details? So what do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? What do you taste? What do you smell? Go through and describe the place where the story is set in. All right, and then the problem or the conflict in the story. So what is the challenge that our main character is trying to overcome? What is the problem that they have to try and defeat or they have to try and deal with in the story? And then solution, how is the problem solved? So at the end, our stories usually resolve by the characters have a problem, and in the end, they solve the problem in some way. Okay, and then here we'll just put a summary of the important events for our plot of our story. The plot is the things that happen. So here it just needs to be in point form, but just organize our points into the beginning, middle, and end of the story. Okay, so I've done a little example for us here. So we all will have listened to my reading of the story Rikki Tikki Tavi. So I made an example of what it looks like here. So I've gone in and I've filled in my Elements of Story worksheet for Rikki Tikki Tavi, and this is what you'll be doing for your own stories. So I started by describing the protagonist. So the protagonist, the main character, was Rikki Tikki. He is a mongoose that kind of looks like a weasel or something like that. They are incredibly quick and are amazing creatures that actually hunt and eat poisonous snakes. Rikki Tikki is heroic in the story, and he wants to protect others from the evil snakes. He particularly wants to save the people who live on the farm. Okay, and then the antagonist, or the villain, or bad guy. So there's two of them. The two king cobras named Nag and Nagaina. They are 5-foot-long snakes that are poisonous and have thick hoods on the back of their necks that make it hard for Rikki Tikki to kill them by breaking their necks. They're continually trying to kill other creatures and get Rikki Tikki to leave because they are afraid of him. The snakes are afraid because Rikki Tikki hunts snakes. Okay, and then the other characters, so usually for the protagonist and the antagonist, you describe them a little bit more in detail. For the other characters, sometimes you just give a little bit more of a brief explanation. So the other characters are Teddy, who is the boy who lives at the farm. He becomes Rikki Tikki's friend. Teddy's dad, he's a farmer. Important detail about him is that he's able to use a shotgun, which becomes useful. That I'm sure you guys remember what happened in the story with that. There's Darzee and his wife, who are birds that are terrified of the snakes. And there's Karate, another small, very poisonous snake. There were other characters in the story, but you don't have to list out every single character. You just want to list out the characters that you see as important. Okay, so the setting in this, This story takes place on a family's farm. The farm is surrounded by lots of high grass for animals to hide in and mounds for animals to live. I get the sense that this is a dry environment and think that it might be something like the Australian outback. So that's my description of the setting. What's the problem or conflict in the story? Well, the snakes are trying to kill Rikki Tikki or kill those who Rikki Tikki cares for so that he will leave. That's the problem. That's what's driving the story through. Okay, and the solution, how does this get resolved? Well, the farmer kills the male snake with a shotgun, and Rikki Tikki kills the female snake and disposes of the snake eggs. Once that's done, the problem's done, and the story comes to a close. Okay, and then here's how I've summarized the plot. So again, don't mention every single thing that happened, just what I see as the important events. So in the beginning, Rikki Tikki is taken in by a family on a farm and becomes their friend. He learns that the area is being terrorized by a pair of snakes. We learn that he is so fast that he can fight and kill snakes. Then in the middle, Rikki Tikki kills a small snake named Karait. The snakes are scared of Rikki Tikki, so they decide to kill the people so the mongoose will leave. Nag comes into the house, but Rikki Tikki attacks and the farmer shoots him dead with a shotgun. And then in the ending, Nagaina comes to kill the humans to avenge her husband. While she does, Rikki Tikki kills all the snake eggs. Then Rikki Tikki fights and kills Nagaina, and Rikki Tikki lives happily with the family. So there's my example of how our elements of story will look like. I'll also post a link to this example attached to this assignment if you want to refer to it.